What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my hands-on and first impressions video of the AT&T Maestro Plus. So let's get started. Now, the AT&T Maestro Plus recently launched as a device for AT&T Prepaid, and apparently, based off what it says in the box, it is only available at Walmart. Now, I did buy this phone from Walmart's website for $89, but definitely make sure to take a look to see the most up-to-date pricing for the phone, as I'm sure that will be changing as time goes on. But before we take a closer look at the actual phone itself, let's take a look and see what all comes included in the box. So as you can see, we do get a pretty large box that the phone does come in. There's a picture of the phone itself right there. We also have a summary of some of the major specifications, but I'll be going over all of that throughout the video. Now, the phone does come with a 2-year warranty, which is pretty awesome. Also, the box does open up, and you can see here's some info about setting up an AT&T prepaid plan, and then usually you would see the phone right through this window here. Also, here's a quick look at their coverage map. I do want to do a lot more content though about AT&T prepaid here on the channel in the future, so definitely stay tuned for that content. But essentially, in the box, we get an AT&T prepaid quick start guide to activate your service. We also get an informational booklet about the AT&T Maestro Plus. You can see that it gives you a very brief overview of the phone, showing you what all the various buttons do. And there's also some directions here on how to set up email and other things as well. It's definitely nice that they do include this. I could definitely see this coming in handy for people that might not be as knowledgeable about how to use smartphones. We also have some additional literature here. We have a USB wall adapter. We have a tool here to access the SIM card slot. And then finally, we have a USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. Now, if you're curious about which company actually makes this phone for AT&T, it is a company called Vinsmart, and I'll likely be making a specific video about this company in the future. But here is the actual AT&T Maestro Plus itself. Now, with this device, we're getting a 6.2-inch display, so a pretty large display here. The display itself is LCD at 720p. We're getting a PPI of 271 and a 19:9 aspect ratio. So we do have a bit more of a narrow but taller form factor here, but not quite as tall as some of the other 20:9 aspect ratio phones that have been launched throughout this year and last year. But in general, I think the phone does have a really nice design. Up top here, we do have a water drop notch, and in that notch is a 5-megapixel front-facing camera. This device does feature 32 gigabytes of internal storage and also features micro SD card expansion. Now, in case you're curious, since getting this phone, I have installed a variety of my favorite applications, and with that, the pre-installed applications, and then also the operating system, I have already used up 15.27 gigabytes of the 32 gigs total that the phone does have. So you most likely will want to get a micro SD card to use here with the phone. Now, the AT&T Maestro Plus does not have wireless charging. It also does not have face unlock, but we do have a fingerprint sensor on the back of the phone. So let's give it a try right now. All right, one more time. Okay, so that fingerprint sensor is decently fast. You do have to get a little bit used to it though about where exactly to place your finger, as it's not quite as responsive as some other ones that I have used. But again, it does at least work, so I'm totally fine with that. Also on the back of the phone, we're getting a dual camera setup. So there's a 13 megapixel main camera and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera for portrait mode. So this phone does support portrait mode for both the rear and front cameras, which is definitely a really nice thing to see, especially for a phone like this that is an entry-level smartphone. But here's how things look on the camera app on the device. There are some different options here, so we can go up to the settings to really customize things as far as the resolution goes. For both photos and video, you can see that the phone does support 1080p video recording for both the front and rear cameras, which is also nice to see. We also have a special manual mode here too that does give us further customizations when it comes to white balance, ISO, and contrast. And then you can see on the right side here, we do have portrait mode, so we are able to get those nice blurred out backgrounds. Now we can then flip around to the front-facing camera to take selfies, so you can do that in either portrait mode or the standard mode as well. Now definitely stay tuned for my full review of the phone, as I'll be showing you a variety of different photo and video samples from the actual device itself. Now with this phone, we're getting 3 gigabytes of RAM and the Qualcomm Snapdragon 460 processor. Now I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test here with the phone, and I'll show you the scores from that test right now. But essentially, the results were actually pretty good. I got a single core score of 257 and a multi-core score of 1287. Nothing close to what you'd get with a flagship device like the Galaxy S21, for example, but for a phone that you can buy for under $100, this is totally acceptable. Now with this device, we're getting a 3,300 milliamp hour internal battery, and we're also getting Android 10 as the software. Now I have no idea if, when, or ever the AT&T Maestro Plus will be updated to newer versions of Android, but I kind of feel like it probably will be stuck on Android 10 indefinitely. And that's not necessarily a deal breaker or a really bad thing, especially since all your apps are going to work totally fine. But if you are someone that does like to have the latest version of Android on your phone at all times, then you probably will be disappointed with this phone. But on the other hand, if you're fine with how the software is right now, and you don't mind whether or not it gets updated or new features are added in the future, then I feel like you won't be disappointed. But now that we've gone over the major specifications of the AT&T Maestro Plus, let's take a closer look at the hardware. So I already talked quite a bit about the front panel here. I do especially like that the screen is decently large, so it does make it ideal for watching videos, browsing the web, and going on social media. You can see that we do get a little bit of a thicker bottom bezel here, but in general, I think the phone's design is completely adequate. Compared to other phones that I've used in this price range, we really are getting a lot of value here with the AT&T Maestro Plus. Now taking a look at the left side of the phone, we just have the slot for the microSD card and SIM card. Then, on the right side of the phone, we have the power button, volume down, and volume up. Then up top here, we have the noise-canceling microphone and the 3.5mm headphone jack. And then on the bottom of the phone, we have the microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the speaker. And then on the back of the phone, we have the camera module, flash, fingerprint sensor, and the AT&T logo. So in general, this phone certainly is a bit on the basic side, but then again, if you are on a budget and you don't want to spend too much, then I do feel like you are getting a solid value here. Now, of course, as I continue to use this phone over time, I'm sure I'll learn a lot more about it, and then I'll come back to share my experiences with you in the full review video. But this is the AT&T Maestro Plus, and definitely let me know what you think about this device in the comments section below. But this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next video.